experts and veterans like Carville says, even though they're all close, they usually go in one direction. It's never 5-5. Like, it's going to be 8-2 if there's 10 up for dispute. Do you buy into that?
I do. So the late-breaking undecideds in a midterm election like this, where the president's in office and he's unpopular, tend to break towards the opposition. So I think some people have been holding off, and they've been deciding. I mean, basically, Republicans in the Senate, they have to hold the ground that they have, which is Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Ohio, and then they have to pick up either Nevada, or Georgia, Arizona, New Hampshire, any couple of those. It could be narrow, or it could be the red wave is so big that it sweeps all those guys, including Baldock, and then you could get to a point where you have a 54 vote majority in the Senate, which is really significant because that puts them in shouting distance to getting a 60 vote majority in 2024, because the field is so tilted towards Republicans in 2024. I think Democrats are defending 23 seats, Republicans are defending 10. 9 of those seats are vulnerable, where either Trump won or Biden won by less than 5 in those seats, whereas Republicans are not defending a single seat in a state that Biden won. So they could very easily win 4 more seats or 5 more seats in 2024 and have a 60 vote majority and possibly a Republican president.
So this is the one thing, before I play any sound and move on to some intriguing governor races, especially one here in New York, there's 2 things that happened. One, Donald Trump's got a lot of money and didn't spend it. And a lot of people gave money to him, and on the hopes that he was going to spend it to the candidates that he endorsed. Number 2 is Mitch McConnell bowed out in 2 races, which, 2, New Hampshire and Arizona.
Yeah, but other groups stepped in. They redeployed that money to other places that they thought there were more.
But don't you think he gave up on that? Don't you think he gave up on Baldock and gave up on Masters?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that there is a lot of shifting money, different pockets of money that, I mean, listen, $8.4 billion will have been spent on this election, a midterm election. And, there's a whole bunch of different groups, and I think they assessed that there were other groups going into New Hampshire. And Baldock is close. I mean, he's really close.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I will tell you what happened. So just for the record, Mitch McConnell has spent, and his aligned PACs has spent $238 million on Trump-nominated Senate nominees, and Donald Trump has spent $14 million. So that's the difference right there. The reason they were not able to invest in Arizona, and they did invest about $16 million in New Hampshire, is because they had to spend $36 million in Ohio. So J.D. Vance is running for a seat where he's been neck and neck. He's running for a seat that Rob Portman won by 20 points. Right now, Mike DeWine is winning by 19 in his race. And so you should not have to spend $36 million in Ohio to save that seat.
Do you blame J.D. Vance for that, or Tim Ryan for running like a Republican?
I blame the fact that we didn't nominate somebody in that state that can win by 20 points. That's the problem. I mean, there's a reason why Rob Portman chose to retire. And so if Rob Portman was on the ticket right now, they would have McConnell would have $36 million he could spend in New Hampshire, money that he could spend in Arizona, and he could have even invested in Tiffany Smiley in Washington State, who's running this really, really impressive upstart campaign, and gone for the big Grand Slam home run. But they didn't have that money because money's finite, and they had to waste $36 million saving J.D. Vance's seat.
Don't you think part of it, Brett, is that Baldock came out and says, I don't think that Mitch McConnell should be majority leader?
I don't know.
How do I put money into that?
I don't know. We can read into that. I think there's a lot of deploying and redeploying of cash. It could be factored in, but I also think that at that point it was more like an 8-point race. Now it's down to really the wire. I mean, it's almost tied in New Hampshire.
And Donald Trump endorsed Monday, I think. He endorsed Baldock. I mean, that might be the little percentage that he needed. And Chris Sununu, to his credit, who was called an agent of China, he goes, all right, I'm so forgiven. I'll go to bat for whoever the nominee is.
Yeah, and that's another race where Sununu is running away with that race. And,
I think he's running for president, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. I want to go to Joe Biden made 2 major gaffes this weekend. I'm obsessed with it because when we're paying for oil and gas utility bills, he's saying he blamed the oil companies for windfall profits. Then he blamed Putin's price hike, and he blamed Saudi Arabia for production. Cut 1.
No more drilling. There is no more drilling. I haven't performed any new drilling.
And what he said is there's no more drilling. I have not supported any new drilling. And he's answering a heckler, a green energy heckler in the audience. And Brett, you got to be kidding me. I mean, he's massaging this message. He has all his economic experts going, well, our production is the same. It's the windfall profits tax we need to push to make them share some of their wealth. Is this a big deal?
I think it's a big deal, especially after the coal comments over the weekend and the pushback from Senator Manchin. I mean, his statement, Manchin's statement, 3 days before an election, for a Democrat
Devastating.
to put out a statement like that against the Democrat in the White House is stunning. And he's not alone in thinking that that's exactly the wrong time to be saying all of this. Listen, you're going to have the green vote. There's not the liberal voters are not going to go, yes, I'm going for J.D. Vance, or they're not going to go over, I don't think. And yet he was catering to those people that were yelling the stop the drilling.
Right, here it is, cut two.
Cost them too much money. They can't count. No one's building new coal plants because they can't rely on it, even if they have all the coal guaranteed for the rest of the existence of the plant. So it's going to become a wind generation. And all they're doing is you're going to save them a hell of a lot of money and using the same transmission line that transmitted the coal-fired electric on. We're going to be shutting these plants down all across America.
Now, Joe Manchin, a Democrat, says President Biden's comments are not only outrageous and divorced from reality, they ignore the severe economic pain the American people are feeling because of energy costs. Comments like these are the reason the American people are losing trust in President Biden and instead believe he does not understand the need to have an all-in energy policy, which Barack Obama had.
Yeah, so first of all, that wasn't a gaffe. That was a statement of administration policy. So people forget this, but last November, John Kerry, his climate envoy, former Secretary of State, went to the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow and announced that the administration plan was to eliminate all coal-powered plants in the United States by 2030, so 8 years from now. So what he was saying, he said the quiet part out loud. Everyone had forgotten that. But so it's dumb for him to say that before an election. But that wasn't a gap. That was actually a statement of administration policy.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, coal produces 22% of the U.S. energy currently. So if you want to get that electric car from point A to point B, 22% of them are fired up by coal plants.
Coal-powered Teslas, like it's one of those old steam engines, right? You just shovel the coal into it, and it goes.
It's unbelievable. And then plus, we know the flip side of the rare earth. You got to strip the earth to get cobalt and lithium and some of these rare earth things, which is aptly named rare. And I remember I interviewed the CEO of Ford. And he said to me, I need help. He goes, I'm going to need help getting this material. And I go, do you going to demand the government help? He goes, well, they have to. They wanted me to invest all this money, and they got this lightning. They got all the deposits are in. They can't even satisfy the deposits. So they need the rare earth to be able to do it. They need the power, the terminals to be able to have it. So no one is talking reality.
We're not there
crazy.
yet. We're not there yet. And so when you go out on a campaign trail 3 days before an election and say, we're going to shut down all the coal plants and we're not drilling anymore, in the middle of a situation where everybody's paying a lot for a gallon of gasoline. I mean, it doesn't make sense as far as a closing message.
No, definitely not. But also, this is going to be a huge fight. You know, if we want to look over the horizon now to like the early 2030s, when they're trying to force everybody into electric cars. You know, you point out that we need the rare earths from China. We actually have the rare earths here, but you have to strip mine large segments of the country in order to do that. And so the environmentalists who want the electric cars are going to prevent us from producing the rare earths here at home because they don't want the strip mining because they'd rather do it in China.
And they're going to close the coal plants.
And they're going to close the coal plants.
Which is 22% of the energy.
And wind and solar, people don't realize this, but wind and solar, there is not a commercially available battery to store wind and solar. Literally, it doesn't exist. So if you are depending on wind and solar and there's no wind or sun, you have no electricity. So they want us to move from fossil fuels to that and also have our cars dependent on that as well. I mean, it's just an economic catastrophe coming, barreling down towards the country.
So we heard about Mem and Oz mess up. The Pittsburgh Steelers were off last week. Last weekend. Not good. But either is this from John Fetterman, cut 15.
We're going to need every one of you to vote and tell your friends and your families to make sure you're willing, to make sure you turn out every vote. I run on Roe v. Wade. Celebrates the demise of Roe v. Wade.
Is that the message he wanted to say?